Would you believe if I tell you that following a simple 4-step guide can bring eternal happiness in your life? Happiness is the feeling that everyone wants to experience, but sadly no one truly understands it. Since the origin of our species, humans have always tried to find ways to be happy, and yet even after chasing it for thousands of years, we find it difficult to define what happiness truly is. Few enlightened people have understood it, but their wisdom has always been very difficult to understand for common folks like me. That is why I decided to blend the wisdom of history's 5 most influential philosophers with the practicality to create a very simple and practical 4-step guide to happiness. Hi guys, I am Pratik and you are watching Eclectic. On this channel, I bring together ideas from diverse fields of knowledge to give you guys a different perspective to look at the world, from your history to your future, all at one place. If you are someone who wants to understand your past, improve your present and shape your future, you are at the right place. Welcome and get aboard. Buddha needs no introduction. He was born a prince in a small kingdom just below the Himalayan foothills. He grew up living a luxurious life, shielded from the outside world, entertained by dancing girls, instructed by scholars and trained in archery, swordsmanship and wrestling. Gautam Buddha's father provided him with all the luxuries and privileges one can imagine. Yet it was not enough. Young Gautama constantly felt that something was missing. He thought that the life he was living had no meaning at all. In his late 20s, he finally decided to step out of his luxurious life to see how common people live outside of his palace. On the streets of his kingdom, Gautama encountered 3 things that disturbed him the most: a sick man, an old man, and a corpse being carried to the burial grounds. When he inquired about these things, his servant told him that all living beings have to endure sickness, old age, and ultimately all of them are going to die one day. This made Gautama even more restless. He thought, if everyone has to go through all of this, if suffering is inevitable, then what's the point of all these luxuries? While returning to the palace, he noticed a wandering ascetic and noticed that there was a deep contentment and satisfaction on his face. From that point onwards, Gautama decided to leave his luxurious life behind and become an ascetic. He resolved to understand human suffering. So there is no better philosopher than him to explain suffering and happiness. After decades of wondering and meditating, what did Gautam Buddha discover about human suffering and happiness? For Buddha, the path to happiness starts from an understanding of the root cause of suffering. According to him, those causes are false knowledge, ignorance, our actions, and our desires. It may sound like these are different things, but in reality, they are all connected. By false knowledge and ignorance, Buddha meant that being ignorant of yourself, not knowing who you truly are, what makes you happy, angry or frustrated. If you don't know yourself, if you don't understand yourself, then that means all of your desires are based on a false identity. Just take a good look around you. How many things have you bought thinking that they would make you happy? A lot of the time we buy stuff not because we need it, but because our friends and neighbors have it. Then after some time we see someone with even more good things and we want to buy those things as well. Well, it happens to me all the time. Sometimes I want something desperately and when I finally get it, I don't feel as happy as I thought I would be after getting it. And whatever little happiness I feel at the moment quickly vanishes with time because it is momentary. It does not last long. And what happens if I lose or break my stuff? I get frustrated. It's an endless cycle. That is why Buddha says, our false knowledge about ourselves leads to false desires, and desires are the root cause of all suffering. So the first step Buddha wants you to take is not to base your happiness on external things or external events because they are out of your control. The second step he wants you to take is to become more aware of yourself, your desires and actions. How can you do that? By practicing meditation. It is the only way to bring more awareness into your life. If you become more aware of your desires, actions and thoughts, you will be able to understand where they come from, and that will help you in knowing yourself. Once you truly know yourself, you will understand the difference between what you want and what you truly need. Bang! At that point, you would have already got rid of half of your frustrations and worries. A person who understands the difference between what he wants and what he truly needs never wastes any time in chasing meaningless stuff. While practicing these simple steps taught by Buddha, if you ever get distracted, remember these lines. Happiness will never come to those who fail to appreciate what they already have. If you want to learn meditation, check out this book by Andy Padukome. This book taught me how to meditate. The process of learning meditation, knowing yourself and getting rid of unwanted desires takes time and effort. Meanwhile, there is an ancient Chinese philosopher who can teach you how to be happy by managing the 4 fundamental aspects of your life. Lao Tzu was an ancient Chinese philosopher and writer who is known to be the founder of Taoism. He is the writer of Taoism's sacred text Tao Te Ching, a 2500 years old book. Numerous people around the globe follow the practical wisdom contained in this book to this very day. Tao Te Ching is one of the most translated works of world literature. Its ancient wisdom is as relevant and important in modern times as it was when it was first written. In Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu writes that you can lead a happy life by managing the 4 fundamental areas of your life. By resources, Lao Tzu does not mean only money. He considers family, work, health, your talent and your brain power to be your resources. According to him, you can take your first step towards happiness by learning to manage all of your resources efficiently, by giving all of them equal importance. Generally, we do the opposite. If you are good at your career and not good at relationships, you give all of your time and energy to your career and just neglect relationships. We give an excess amount of importance to the things we are good at and we just neglect the rest. But Lao Tzu says you must aim to balance all the aspects of your lives. You must give an equal amount of importance to your career, relationships and health. Neglecting any one resource can become an obstacle in your path to happiness. Number 2. Relationships. Having a healthy social life is important in order to be happy. You are the product of your environment. Everything that surrounds you has a power to affect you either negatively or positively, be it people, weather patterns or any cultural setting. That's why Lao Tzu wants you to live in harmony with everything around you, your community, your family and nature. Living in harmony means not harming anyone, but instead nurturing, protecting and contributing to the well-being of everything around you. To help you in managing your relationships, here is a small exercise taught by Lao Tzu. Make 3 lists. First, a list of your family members and close friends. Second, a list of people you have hurt. And third, a list of people who have hurt you. You should always take care of the people who are on the first list. You should always support them in both the good and bad times and you should always try to keep them happy. And second list is the list of people you should apologize to and try to make up for the damage you have caused. Now what to do with the third list? After all, it is the list of people who have hurt you. Well, to my disappointment, Lao Tzu wants you to forgive them. Lao Tzu wants you to forgive them. And obviously he is right. Resentment leads you nowhere. It causes more harm to you than the person who harmed you. Lao Tzu, however, may have forgotten to mention one important point. You should forgive, but should not forget. If you forget how some people have hurt you, then they might try to harm you again. And that's why it is better to distance yourself from such a-holes. Number 3. Self-development. One of the hardest things in life is to admit your mistakes, to admit that you are wrong. And this tendency is the biggest obstacle between you and a better version of yourself. We are living in a culture where people say, just accept me as I am, I'm not gonna change. They say it even when everything about them is so wrong. And that attitude is not gonna lift you up, it will sink you down. You should always strive for excellence. That is why in Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu explains that the first step towards self-mastery is to accept criticism gracefully. Well, you should stop taking things personally and learn from your mistakes. Admit your mistakes and correct them before it is too late. That is the first step towards becoming a better version of yourself. People who spend time on self-development understand themselves and are better able to keep making progress in life. It takes a lot of strength to keep it cool when someone criticizes you. However, you should be very careful here. Don't take every criticism that you come across very seriously. Some people criticize you just to distract you or to make you feel sad. Always remember, your mistakes are not who you are. They are just the indicator of where you are at the moment. Number 4. Self-maintenance. As you may have guessed it from the term itself, self-maintenance is all about your health. In Taoism, self-maintenance does not just mean exercising rigorously, it means respecting your body and always keeping the balance between working hard and relaxing. For instance, you don't need a completely stress-free life. That's not good. You need some amount of stress to keep moving forward in life. Otherwise, just being relaxed all the time will get you nowhere. So balance is the key. Work enough, sleep enough, eat enough, and relax enough. That will keep your yin and yang balanced. Number 3. Seneca. Teachings of Stoicism such as virtue, tolerance, and self-control have inspired generations of thinkers and leaders. There are at least a dozen schools of philosophy out there, but Stoicism is most popular among all. Stoicism has become popular because it has actionable and practical advice for anyone who wants to lead a life full of satisfaction, dignity, and wealth. Stoic thinkers who lived 2000 years ago are becoming the best-selling authors of the 21st century. One such thinker is Lucius Annaeus Seneca, usually known as Seneca. He was a Roman Stoic philosopher, statesman, and playwright who published several essential works about Stoicism. He is probably the only philosopher who wrote an entire book on happiness called De Vita Vita. In it, he explains that happiness is an internal affair, and to capture the happiness that already exists within you, you need to take 3 simple steps. Let's call it the happiness triangle of Seneca. Step 1. Understand the dichotomy of control. Every day something happens around you that you don't like, but can you always do something about it? Do you always have control over all the things that happen around you? No, right? That is why Seneca wants you to accept that the world is a chaotic place, and to live happily, you only need to focus on the things that are in your control. Things such as your education, career, goals, and health. And you should detach yourself from all the things that are beyond your control, such as how people treat you, what they talk about you, and so many other social issues that you don't have any control over, that you don't know how to deal with. Even things like your money, property, and other possessions can be taken away from you in an instant if a natural calamity hits. Worrying about things you have no direct control over causes emotional suffering. Everything can be taken away from you except your mind. All you have is you, your mind, your thoughts, and your skills. No one can take them away from you. So focus on these things and leave out the rest. Once you understand this, then comes the second step. Living with arete. Generally, there is always a gap between what you are capable of and what you do on a daily basis just to merely survive. Living with arete means closing this gap. That means always striving for excellence and being the best version of yourself in any given situation. A lot of talented people choose to live a mediocre life just because they are too afraid of taking risks. They don't want to face their fears or deal with uncertainty. When they choose to suppress their true capabilities, knowingly or unknowingly they choose a dissatisfied life, and that dissatisfaction runs through every aspect of their life. It engulfs everything: friends, family, partner, everything. They become bitter and resentful people. Back in 2018, everyone around me wanted me to have a decent job in the corporate sector. My family just kept telling me that you need to get a job, you need to get a job. It was unbearable. You may not relate to this if you are from US or other first world countries, but in my country, parents want to make all the important decisions for their kids, even when they become adults. Decisions about education, career, marriage, and so on. I did not want to get a job. I wanted to create content. I wanted to learn filmmaking, writing, and acting. I did not have money to learn all of these things from any established institution, so I became self-taught, and I used YouTube as a platform to showcase what I created. I kept improving based on the feedback that people gave me. I wanted to build a YouTube channel that would appeal to people from all around the world. I'm not quite there yet, but I will be there one day. I have no doubts about it. Once you choose your path, not everyone is going to demotivate you. Some people who truly want to see you happy will stand by you, just as my girlfriend, my sister, and some of my friends have stood by me. I knew if I chose this path, there will always be uncertainty around how much money I earn monthly. There won't be any steady income source, etc., etc. But after 3 years, here I am, and it seems everything is working perfectly fine. Anyway, sorry, I digressed. We went from Seneca into my personal story in a matter of seconds. So no matter what happens, always live with your arete. Always aim for what you are capable of achieving. Never settle for anything less than that. After understanding what you can control and starting to utilize your true potential, the next step is to become responsible. Take responsibility when you can. Taking responsibility will give you a sense of control over your life. It will make you feel that you are in charge of your life. You know where it is going. People who run away from responsibilities always feel that they are not in control. They blame everything on others. This tendency can make you feel weak, but taking responsibility will pump you up with self-confidence. To talk more on this, let me invite the next philosopher from the list, who happens to be one of my personal favorites, Friedrich Nietzsche, a German philosopher and cultural critic. According to him, chasing happiness and wanting to live without any worries is the desire of a mediocre people. Wise people know that happiness cannot be a constant state of being. There are always going to be ups and downs. Without experiencing sorrow, you cannot appreciate happiness. Still, in trying to specifically define what happiness is, Nietzsche states, happiness is the feeling that power increases, that resistance is being overcome. According to him, happiness is a kind of control one has over their actions and surroundings, a sense of control that Seneca talked about while asking everyone to be responsible. According to Seneca and Nietzsche, taking responsibility for yourself is the only way to get a sense of control over your life. It seems they both agree on that one. Last philosopher, who is probably the only living philosopher from the list, Slovoj Zizek, a Slovenian philosopher whose works in subjects such as continental philosophy and psychoanalysis has gained him international influence. His views on politics are quite controversial, but he says things that make me think deeply about my life and society we live in. Slovoj Zizek, who is one of the most influential philosophers alive, takes Nietzsche's idea further and says that happiness is not even important in life. He treats happiness as some kind of paradox. He considers satisfaction and contentment to be a product of capitalist values that promote the idea that you can become happy by consuming more, by having access to the best services and the best things. But according to him, most people don't really know what they want. You believe that if you reach something, buy something, raise your social status or accomplish something, you will be happy. But in reality though, you just want to reach another thing and then another and then another. It just goes on and hence you will always remain dissatisfied. According to Zizek, the best way out of this is to have a purpose in life that transcends everything.
For example, let's be serious. When you are in a creative endeavor, in that wonderful fever, my God, I'm onto something, and so on, happiness doesn't enter it. You are ready to suffer. Sometimes scientists, I read history of quantum physics or earlier of radiation, were even ready to take into account the possibility that they will die because of some radiation and so on. You know, happiness is for me an unethical category.
Renowned psychologist Jordan Peterson, despite being at odds with Slovoj Zizek on ideological issues, agrees with him on this one. He states positive emotions are associated with movement forward. If you are aware where you want to go in life and things are going well, you are making progress towards your goal, inching closer to it day by day, then you are going to experience positive emotions far more than people who don't have any sense of direction. Most people around the world just get up in the morning and go to work with no sense of direction. They hate their jobs but still keep on working to earn money so that they can buy expensive stuff to impress others. They do the work they don't like to impress the people they don't like. Let that sink in for a bit. How paradoxical is that? By now you know exactly what these philosophers have to teach about happiness, but how can you practically use their ideas in your daily life? For instance, I cannot expect you to just follow Gautam Buddha's teachings. The truth is, no matter how hard we try, we cannot become as enlightened as he was. Also, we cannot expect everyone to leave everything behind and just sit under a tree and meditate for the rest of their life. I personally believe that no matter how much you get into spirituality, you should never ever lose your touch with the practicality. Following the path proposed by any one philosopher is not going to be helpful. So the solution is to find a way to effectively use what each of them have proposed. For that, here is a simple 4-step guide to happiness based on the ideas of these 5 philosophers. This guide would make it easy to incorporate all of their ideas into your life. I condensed all of their ideas into it. Treat this guide as a summary of everything that we discussed today. Step 1. You have to start with Seneca, the famous Stoic philosopher. He is the most practical among them all. He will teach you to differentiate between things you can control and things you cannot do anything about. I am mentioning the timestamps here so that you can go back again to see what each of these philosophers have to say. Once you understand the dichotomy of control, take the second step with ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu. He will teach you how to manage the 4 fundamental aspects of your life. Now keep on following these 2 steps consistently before you take the third step with Gautam Buddha. Buddha will teach you to become more aware of yourself, to know yourself thoroughly, your desires, thoughts, actions, everything about you. And this increased self-awareness will help you to get rid of unnecessary desires and ultimately lead you to happiness. Now the last step. Keep in mind what Nietzsche and Zizek have to say. You cannot be happy all the time. You should not waste even 1 minute of your life chasing happiness. Instead of that, you should seek meaning in life and have a purpose. Always remember, there is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path. Hey guys, I hope you found my video helpful. If you did, be sure to subscribe, like or comment. It would really help my channel out. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Now it seems it's my time to relax, to keep my yin and yang balanced, you know. Is your yin and yang balanced, Manisha? Turn it off. Turn it off.